Welcome to Everyday Happiness, where we create lasting happiness in 2 minutes a day through my signature method of intentional margins, creating harmony between your to-dos and your priorities, happiness science, and musings about life. I'm your host, Katie Jeffcoat, and I was listening to social psychologist Nick Epley describe his social connection experiment, and it's so fascinating that I just had to share it with you. So Nick Epley is a professor and researcher out of the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. His credentials are long and robust, and if I started down that road, we'd never get to the good stuff. So Epley's experiment that I'm going to explain started with really just an observation. He was thinking about all the literature he was reading that was demonstrating how important social connection was for our happiness and well-being. And yet, every day when he took the commuter train into the office in Chicago, he noticed people in very close proximity to one another, including himself, actively avoiding social connection. He knew he wanted to do his own social experiment, so he asked for volunteers. And in exchange, he gave them a $5 Starbucks gift card. I mean, that's gold, right? And he also asked them to complete a survey at the end of this experiment. So with these volunteers, he created 3 groups. The first group was told to just keep to themselves, enjoy your solitude on the train ride in, and that was the solitude group. The second group was the control group. They were just told to do whatever they would normally do on the ride. And today, which is normally to keep to yourself, right? Sit alone or sit by yourself at least. And then in the third group, they were told to do something perhaps somewhat radical. That is when someone came to sit next to them, which they would because it's a packed train. They were asked to try to form a connection with that new person, the stranger, and try to get to know something about him or her. And that's all that he told the volunteers. After their commute, they were asked to fill out a survey. The same survey was for everyone, regardless of what group they were in. And the survey included a bunch of items, but the first 3 were the ones we're going to talk about here, and the ones he really cared about. The volunteers were asked, how sad are you today after your commute? How happy are you? And third, how pleasant was your commute compared to normal? Epley and his team averaged the first 3 of these together and found something really interesting. And you might remember, we have talked about how people might think that when you connect with a stranger, like a couple episodes ago, we talked about how we as individuals feel like the stranger is going to think that we're total weirdo, right? And it feels unpleasant and it feels like uncomfortable. But actually, this experiment found all of that to be wrong. What they found were that people in the connection group, the one where you were forced to make this connection, were actually reporting the most positive experience. And people in the solitude group were reporting the least positive experience. So just like we see over and over again in experiments, connecting with another person was pleasant. It improved their well-being and improved their mood. So the question is, why don't people do it? Well, that's what we're going to dive into tomorrow, and just to test that and see what Epley came up with, because he asked this question. So, connecting with strangers turns out to be surprisingly pleasant.